We're going to actually do something a little bit different, a little unique here this weekend to get started for Mother's Day. As you can see, I am joined on stage with moms, all from different stages of life and family experiences. Nancy, my wife Lauren, Kim, and Ruth are all going to be sharing a little bit here this morning. And then at the end of this panel, I'm going to close us out. But really what we wanted to do here this weekend is we wanted to provide an opportunity for the ladies that are on this stage to share some of the life experience that they've been through and what God has brought them through over the years, what it's like to raise a family, to build a home. And each of you are in different stages of that right now. And can you do me a favor? Put your hands together for these ladies, for these women. You know, I don't know if you recognize this, but before we get started with some of these questions, Mother's Day is actually one of the highest attended services in the entire year. But what you would be surprised to know is that it's also one of the highest attended services for men. And I think the reason is because the power of mom, okay? And this weekend, here this morning, we want to hear from some of these moms, really what God has done through your lives, what He's continuing to do. And I think it's important for everyone in this room to know, especially if you're a mom that's struggling, that no family is perfect, that no one has it all together. Despite what you may see on social media or the pictures that float around on Facebook, no one has a perfect home. But we do serve a perfect Savior, and our aim is to build everything upon Him. And so I'm just going to ask a few questions, and these ladies are going to dialogue, and we're going to have a good time. So why don't we just jump in with one of these just easy questions to get started. Okay, share some of the favorite memories that you have from your kids when they were young.
One of my favorite ones, we have 6 children, and when we had just 5 of them, they were all 5 playing Legos together, quietly and nicely. And that is stuck with me forever. They're playing Legos. Nobody's arguing. The little chatter, it was great.
One of my favorite memories was we used to start out a lot of times Saturday mornings. My kids, when they were young, they would crawl into bed with us. And we would talk and we would giggle and we would laugh. And we have an old ceiling, cork ceiling with those little lines in it. And they would find pictures in there and point them out. 3 blocks over, 2 blocks down, there's a picture of a cat. And we'd be like, okay, I'm not sure we see that, but they saw all kinds of animals. But it was a great way to start our Saturday mornings, just hanging out together.
And you have 2 kids?
I have 2 kids.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which one's your favorite?
Better say Eli.
I plead the 5th. They're both my favorites.
Okay. That's a mom for you right there. Right there.
So one of my favorite memories from Lindsay, Lindsay was about 2.5 years old when Carla was born. And Carla was upstairs, and she had just started crying. And before I could say anything, Lindsay shouted, "Carla, I'm on my way!" And she just ran up the stairs like she could do something. And for Carla and Alondra, I have a pretty old iPad, and it has a plethora of videos with them just making songs up, playing together, just recording a whole episode of whatever cartoon they were watching, because those 2 were super close when they were growing up.
All right, guys. You've heard his version of this story, so now you get to hear my version, which is the true version, okay?
What are we going to talk about?
This story is not necessarily about parenting. It's about becoming a parent. So when I was pregnant with Emma, obviously this was my first child. And moms, if you've been pregnant with that first kid, you know you're probably freaking out about every little thing. Especially when you get close to the end, you're like, what is labor going to feel like? I don't know. I have no idea. had a lot of false labor. Okay, I went to the hospital probably too many times.
Five times.
No, it was not 5 times. It was not 5 times. But I had Braxton Hicks, and I didn't know what it was going to feel like. I just thought, this doesn't feel right, so I better go. Well, he got real fed up with that real fast. So the day that I actually went into labor, I started having labor pains around 2 o'clock in the morning. And I knew when it happens, you know, okay, there's no question. And I had very bad back labor. So I got up, and for 5 hours, I labored alone while he slept because it was the middle of the night. I didn't want to wake him up. I thought if he sleeps, it'll be better. So I did all the stuff you're supposed to do in labor. I was too bad. And I said, you get up now. And so I called the doctor. She said, yeah, you can head to the hospital now. So he got into the car, we're driving down the road, and he sees in Warren, Ohio, there's a magnificent McDonald's. It's humongous. It's off to the side of the road as you're headed to the hospital. You know where we stopped, right?
It's like a piece of heaven.
I'm in full-blown labor, and he stopped at magnificent McDonald's to get a McGriddle, which smells awful as it is. But on top of that, I'm in labor. So we're in the drive-thru line. He orders his food, and I'm like, I can't believe you just stopped here. I'm dying. I feel like I'm being torn in half, and you're like, I need a McGriddle. Get my day started right. And so we get up to the window, and the girl standing there, she sees I'm having a contraction, so I'm trying to breathe through it, and she goes, boy, you better get her to the hospital. And he was like, she's fine. Give me my McGriddle. Listen, he has redeemed himself. But don't ever do that, men, ever. Just take her to the hospital.
I'm really rethinking this whole idea up here. I really am.
He asked me to tell that story, just so you know.
I did. Never said I was smart. Okay. So when it comes to this journey of motherhood, I know there's a lot of conversation out there. The idea of finding a balance. You know, how do you juggle work and life and kids and being married and getting everything done? And it almost feels like you don't have enough hours in the day to complete the task list that's in front of you. So certainly, as we mentioned before, that there's no home that's perfect. But what are some things that you've learned over the years that have helped to provide or create a healthy rhythm in your home?
Well, for me, early on, Ken and I decided before we even had kids that Christ, in our marriage even, Christ was going to be the center of our marriage, the center of our children. So when they were born, we made going to church a priority. It was never where we were attending. They had a Wednesday night service and Sunday services, and we went every Wednesday and every Sunday, unless there was something going on. But that was... We gauged our activities around church, not church around our activities. And then everything else fall into place. When you make Christ the center, you start dealing with what's important and not what's urgent. A wise person a long time ago told me that. And you find out what's important for your family, and that's what you pursue more than the urgent things. Mom's dust will not rot your furniture. It's okay if the house gets dusty. It's okay if the house stays dirty. Your kids are in your life for such a short moment of time. It really is short. So enjoy that, because you can dust and clean the house later.
I think keeping the correct order of God first, then the husband, then the mom, then the kids. And that's how I lived my life as a mom. My relationship with my husband was very important, but there was a time when my kids were little that I used to put them first. And we went to a marriage retreat, and I had to rethink that. And I think that my kids are the better for it, because dad and mom's relationship is so important to them, how they see you acting together, reacting to each other, loving each other. You have to have the strong marriage to have the strong kids. And I know there's a lot of relationships that are not like that right now, and I know people go through divorces and stuff, but I think it's so important to keep that husband and wife relationship important in front of your kids and between the two of you, and to put God first, as you said. And we did. We were a homeschool family, and church was number one. Everything revolved around that. And then understanding, though, that those kids are kids. They are not the ones in charge. They should not be in charge. You are in charge. You are in charge. And so if you follow the Lord's leading in how you raise your kids, that is the way that will ultimately gain you the best success.
So I would say balance is probably not the word I would use, because I don't know that you ever find balance. It's not all going to feel smooth, right? So I think for us, our family, it's about finding the rhythm, because there's rhythms to life where things are moving faster than other times in your life. And so finding the rhythm where you do spend time together as a family. Things are hectic. We have a lot of technology now that distracts us from our time together. And so one of the things that we do is Friday nights are foster family fun night. Now, occasionally that doesn't happen because something comes up, or there's a wedding or something. But for the most part, Friday nights are spent, the four of us together, talking at the dinner table. What has your week been like? What's your day been like? What are your highs and your lows? How can God speak to those highs and lows? How does God help us come out of our low? And how do we celebrate our highs in honoring Him for what He's done in our lives?
Just more about the same, just having those priorities where it doesn't matter how tired we are. Come Sunday, we're all going to church. We'll just have to rest next weekend if we're not that busy. And just being all inclusive. You know, when we have dinner, everyone's in the general kitchen area. For those of you that do not know, we have 7 kids. So when we have our daughters from New York, we don't all fit in our table, but we do have a breakfast bar area. So it's in that general kitchen area. No one is eating at the couch. We're all there, and we do try to have movie nights. Now the girls don't really like movies, but just being all inclusive, not forgetting that God is the top of that pyramid that holds us all together.
And Nancy, I'm going to ask you this question specifically because we may have some families here at our church that are a blended family. You know, you're married, you're raising kids, but you're raising kids with your spouse, and perhaps, of course, there's an ex that's involved, and there's some crossover. And so that adds a whole new dimension and layer to a family dynamic. And how would you say that's looked, and what has God done in your life through that scenario?
I think for us, the way that we've been able to just work through all of it is constant communication between Chris and I. There's things that my daughters will do that Chris is not sure if it's something that I would correct or I wouldn't correct, so we talk a lot so that we're not overreacting on things that really don't need to be addressed. But then at the same time, when we'll do things, we'll go out to parks whenever we can, regardless of if we have all our kids together or just the ones that live with us. So when our daughters from New York come over, we don't go over the top either, because they're all our daughters. So some weekends, it's just us at home watching movies, playing board games. Other weekends, then we will take them out. But in order to make them feel like no one is more special. They're all special. So we don't go over the top for either, if that makes any sense. It's a lot of kids, so we don't have the money to go over the top either. But it shouldn't just be when there's more kids in the house.
It's really good. So share a story. How did your mom make a difference in your life spiritually when it came to the Lord?
I'll go first. Some of you know my mom. She's here every Sunday. She and my stepdad drive here over an hour every Sunday. And she serves faithfully in that nursery. She's in there right now with those babies that were just dedicated. And my mom is one of my biggest inspirations in life. I watched her raise me and my sister on her own. Her parents had both died at young ages. She had no sister to help her. She had a lot of brothers, but they weren't a whole lot of help, I'm not going to lie. And she went to nursing school. She put herself through school. She worked midnights. And it was hard. I'm not going to pretend like everything was rosy. It wasn't. It was hard. But she loved the Lord, and she instilled that in us. She made sure we got the best Christian education we could. And she taught me how to continue pursuing God in my pain, because she experienced a lot of pain. She had lost her parents. She had lost her marriage. And she was on her own. And there was a time when she could have really just let herself fall into that precipice of pain and not come back out. But she kept fighting for that relationship with Jesus, and she let him heal her. And it made the biggest difference, not just for her, but for her daughters. And I'm just so thankful for that example in my life.
I grew up Catholic, and so my mom and dad took us to church when I was young. But my Nana, my mom's mom, she was the one who really inspired me. She loved the Lord very much. She would pray her rosary. She would just talk to me about the Lord, and it was very caring and sharing and loving from her. And so she's the one that I looked to as my spiritual mentor as a child.
My mom, she actually didn't get saved till after I did. I got to lead my mom to the Lord. She was always a religious person, went to church all the time. And I did go to church all the time, and that's how I think I always had a love for the Lord. And I got saved in college. But my mom, looking back at her life, she walked by faith without even knowing it. She just, if you told her something, this is what you need to do, she did it. No questions asked. And I just lost my mom in November, so I've just been thinking a lot about her lately. But she walked by faith. She just did it without even knowing. And it impressed me. I didn't see it more. I see it more now as I got older. But as a kid, I think it left an impression on me, and I didn't realize it till now.
And so many of you have already shared moments like this, what Christ has done in your own family. But maybe even just share a little bit more specifically, how has Christ changed your family?
I look at it as Christ created my family. Ken and I, like I said, we decided from the very beginning he'd be the center. And when we started raising kids, I look back, he created the family unit that we are now, because we always focused on him. When we had an issue, we focused on him. When our kids were growing up, everything was put back towards what would Jesus do? How would Jesus do that? So it wasn't that he changed our family, he actually created our family.
When John and I got married, we were married in the Catholic Church, so he was not born again until after 2 of our kids were born. And our marriage was rocky. We were young, in our 20s, and our marriage was very rocky at that point. So when I started going to a ladies' Bible study and rededicating my life to the Lord, I had accepted the Lord as my Savior at a church camp when I was a teenager. And after he accepted the Lord and became part of the church and a men's group, and he was ultimately changed so much as a husband and as a man that I was so thankful to the Lord. And we then had 4 more children after that. So Christ made a huge difference in our marriage. We were water baptized together at the Assembly of God Church, and when we were water baptized, we said that Jesus was the medicine that healed our marriage. In our innocence, we just really believe that, though. He was the healer of our marriage, because if he hadn't accepted the Lord, and if things hadn't changed the way they had, we would not have been stayed together. So he did an amazing work.
I think for us, coming from being divorced and getting married, just finding that true love, and no matter what your family looks like, having God as that foundation for whatever your family looks like, and sharing that with your kids so that they can see that God fixes everything. Whatever is broken can come to God, and he will fix it, even if it's broken past relationships. just building upon God to fix your life, whatever it's to come.
So I feel like our family's always changing. I feel like God's always changing it. One, because he always has to be changing me. I feel like I go to God all the time asking what needs to be changed in my heart. What do I need to do differently? How can I seek you better and become freer? Because we all need that, honestly. And I honestly don't know how people raise children without the Holy Spirit, because if I didn't have that wisdom to go to, I would screw it all up all the time. And I'm big on apologizing to my kids when I'm wrong, because I may be their parent and I may know more, but I don't get it right all the time. And that has been one of the most healing things in my relationship, especially with my 13-year-old daughter, is to tell her sometimes I don't know what the right thing is to do, but I need you to understand I love you and I'm seeking God and I'm asking him what I need to do next. And that for her is so reassuring that I'm not just laying the hammer down like this is what you're going to do. No, I'm going to your creator, the one who has the blueprint for who you are, child, and I'm asking him for the wisdom to be able to parent you the right way.
So good. And I think all of us can agree, regardless if you're a mom or a dad, these principles, what we're talking through, it encourages us for how to build our home. And so pivoting for a minute, I know a lot of you, there's a lot of kids that are represented by moms here on the stage. There have been some funny moments that have taken place in your homes over the years. Share one of the funniest memories you have with your kids.
I've told Foster I didn't like this question because a funny moment doesn't come to mind right away. We laughed a lot in our family. We had a Bowser motto: if it's fun, let's do it. And a lot of times I can look back, and at the time it wasn't funny, but looking back we can all laugh at it because we grew. We grew from that. So something that might have not have been funny at the time, we'll look back on it and say, oh, that was pretty funny but when we were in that situation, it was not funny. But because we grow through it and we learned how we grew through it, we can look back on it and laugh. But most of my memories are just us spending time together and laughing and having fun. I can say one thing, it's not really funny, but my kids went through a joke phase where they thought they were funny. And they would make jokes up and we wouldn't laugh and they'd go, well, don't you get it? And they'd explain it to us. And we'd try to tell them that if you have to explain a joke, that means it's not funny. So I bought them joke books and took them to the library to understand how jokes are supposed to be funny. So I guess that would be one of our funny stories.
You want me to go? Okay, I'll go. So I don't have like one particular story. We have a lot of funny stories. I don't know that I could come up with one right now. But one of my favorite things about our son Jaden is that he loves to scare people. He will hide in the most random places to just jump out and scare you. There was one time we were living in Arkansas. Lauren was on the couch on his phone doing something, probably emailing, I don't know. But he was very intense. Like whatever he was doing had his full focus. And so Jaden just kind of noticed, like, oh, Dad's not paying attention. And so he just stood there for a second and waited and waited and waited just to see if Lauren would get distracted at all. And he was laser focused. So he just got up right behind the couch and just jumped up over it and grabbed Lauren and yelled. And this man about came out of his skin. His phone went flying. He was freaked out. It was the funniest. I laid on the floor crying. And the other day, I came out of my bathroom, I went and sat down on my bed, and his head just popped out from under my bed. He does stuff like that all the time. I think it's hilarious, and I love it.
Our son, not me, right? Okay.
Right,
Okay. Just clarifying.
I didn't like this question either because I have a terrible memory. But one of the recent funny moments in the house, Alondra, when Carla was small, they're only 18 months apart, Carla and Alondra. Carla could not say Alondra to save her life. So she went with Oli. So that's been Alondra's nickname since Carla couldn't say Alondra. But lately, Alondra told us that she doesn't like her nickname. So she doesn't want anyone calling her Oli anymore. Elijah said something to Alondra, and I can't remember what it was, but he said Oli. And she was like, excuse me, that's not my name. So he goes running out the game room and up the stairs and says, sorry, Oli, and just keeps running. And then the girls are always joking. Thankfully, lately, they've been calling each other bestie and girly, because for the longest, it was like, hey, loser. But they do have fun together. We do a lot of road trips because just to go get the girls in New York is a 5-hour drive. But so they're always either singing to Disney songs where one is pretending to be the boy and the other one's the girl, and one is trying to have the deep voice while the other one is just laughing, or they go on a kick on trying to say some terrible dad jokes the whole drive. So there's always funny moments in our household.
That is so good. In fact, I was thinking of one. Mom, you remember this, and I'm gonna share this story. I remember when I was a kid that we were making cookies together, and I was pouring in some chocolate chips into the stand mixer, and then you put your hand in the mixer when it was off, but then I turned it on. Do you remember that? Yeah, she remembers it. If you heard that was that because I remember you telling me that I almost broke your hand, almost broke your wrist, and then she almost broke me after that whole moment. And Graham, I have one for you too. When I was, I think, 6 or 7 years old, I was in your kitchen in Niles, and you said something to me to go set the table, do something, a chore. And I don't know why, but I cussed at you. And I remember that that after that, you backhanded me, and then I never cussed at you ever again. And I love you. Just want you to know that. All right, so we have a few more minutes, and I'd love for all you ladies, summarize for us, because it's obvious that we know that over the years, we don't always get it right, and we've already said that no family is perfect. But we also know that stress is real, tension is real, emotions can get out of control from time to time. So if you could turn back the clock and tell your younger self something that would encourage moms in this room, regardless of what stage of life they're in, what would you say?
I really am thankful for one thing, first of all, that we did do. And I would have family meetings with the kids. And if I said we're having a family meeting, they knew. Everybody, all 6 of them, had to get in the living room, and I sat down. And I would often cry and pour my heart out to them, like, I can't handle listening to you guys argue, whatever it was. And so I'm very thankful that we did that, though, because it allowed me to get out what I needed to share with them in an environment where they all just sat there listening without saying a word. What I do wish I had done differently, looking back, is it is tough with teenagers to have a close relationship with them if you don't truly make the effort. And having 6 kids, I'm much more of an overseer versus a detail person. My husband's more the detail. So I would be the mother hen and oversee everything and make sure everything was going well with all 6 of them. But if I could go back, I would do more date nights with each one of them and have the conversations, the intimate conversations with each one of them that I did not do enough of. And so if I could encourage you with children from little on up, is take that time and have those quality moments where you're getting to know who your child really is individually, not just as the group or the family.
Well, that's a tough one. I would say give yourself grace. And I learned if I messed up, I was like Lauren, I did apologize to my kids if I did something stupid. Big thing with me is I could lose my temper quite quickly. And my son and daughter came out with mom's wigging out. But they would say that to me, and I would learn, I would start to control that or apologize. But I wish I would have not let little things upset me so quickly. And And I think it's real easy as moms because we're trying to get so much done at the speed of light and trying to make sure everything's perfect. Well, not everything's going to be perfect. And it's okay if it's not perfect. Take the time to invest in the person, not the stuff around you. I did do that, but not as much as I regret the wigging out a lot. But it's more important to invest in the person because, like I said before, your kids are here for just such a short moment. I'm starting to get the empty nest syndrome, and it's hard. I'll tell you that. It's hard to let them go. I know they need to be gone and fly the coop, and it just seems just like that they were babies. So enjoy that time and invest in them.
When I was stationed in California, my job was very time-consuming. I would be out of the house by 4:45 in the morning, and it could be 6 or 7 o'clock at night when I would get back home. So the time that we had in California was not really a time that the girls got to do much. And I promised myself that I would make time for my girls because they were growing up. And so past California, I've encouraged them to do sports and get involved with school and just go out as a family because, like everyone said, they're not going to be there for your entire life in your house. So your job will replace you the moment you leave, but that's not the same with your kids. So if I could do anything better, I would have given them more time that they needed just growing up, which we're doing now, but they missed a few years of just them being kids and maybe just having a little more fun and doing more things that now we're trying to catch up on letting them do.
I would echo what Ruth said. I think just maybe worked on my patience a little more. I got hung up on little things that really, looking back now, don't matter as much. How clean the house is, how their hair looks, how their outfit looks. All the little things that just add up and can really grate on a mom, especially when you're overworked and exhausted. You can just snap, and I think I would go back and change that. And I would have let myself just be in the moment more and relax. It's easy to get stuck on things that now, hindsight 2020, don't matter as much. And so just realizing especially if you've got little ones right now, just step back and take it in because it's going to go that fast. It does. Everybody says it, okay? And when your kids are little and they're stressing you out, you're like, right. But then it does. And you look back and go, man, I wish I would have enjoyed that more.
Okay, so as we wrap up this panel, if you could share one thing to your mom in just a sentence, what would that be?
My mom is my hero. So if I could say anything to my mom, it would be thank you for being so strong and raising strong kids.
I'd tell my mom that I love her, I miss her, and thanks for being always there for me.
I would also just say thank you, Mom, for raising a disciplined daughter who has been able to raise 6 wonderful children as she raised me.
I would and will. She's back there. I'm going to tell her later. I love her so much, and I'm just so thankful for her example that she set for me and the way she loves me and my sister and all her grandkids and how she loves Jesus.
And I would say to my mom, I love you very much. Love you. Would you do me a favor? Could we put our hands together and thank these ladies for their contribution here this morning? So as everyone's taken their seats, I do want to share something here for just a few minutes. In fact, I'm going to have Cody come back up. He can start to play. Don't worry, I'm not preaching a whole message. It's all right. But I do want to say that, what we've been sharing here this morning is very practical. And the hope is that if you're discouraged at some point right now in your family, whether you're a mom or a dad or maybe even you're single, you're on that path one day, and there's some discouragement in your life, I hope this practical wisdom that we're hearing not only from life experience but from the Word will help. In fact, next week we're going to be starting a brand new series called A Little Bit of Wisdom. And we're going to be looking at the book of Proverbs, and we're going to be finding out just what the Word of God says about specific areas in our life when it comes to our family, when it comes to our relationships. How many of you could use a little bit more wisdom in your life right now? Billy Graham, he said it like this. He says that knowledge is horizontal, but wisdom is vertical. Wisdom comes from above, comes from the Lord. So we're going to dig into that starting next week. But I'm going to tell you something here as we get ready to close that you already know, that there is nothing like the love of a mom. In fact, if you don't believe me, just watch and wait to see who your son or daughter goes to when they get hurt. They always run to mom. They never go to dad because the typical male response is, "You're fine. It's going to be okay." But mom is always there to hug, kiss, encourage with a Band-Aid and a reassurance that everything is going to be all right. In Isaiah 66:13, it says, "As one whom his mother comforts, so I will comfort you." The love of God is apparent and is shown through the love of a mom. And I love this passage because it brings to remembrance that the Lord brings peace and comfort to our home. And to be honest, there may be some of us here in this room on this Mother's Day weekend that perhaps tension is the word that would best describe the atmosphere in your home. Or I've noticed over the years as my wife and I have raised our kids that regret tends to make its way through the door. And I see so many moms and dads and family members and friends that fall into the trap of looking back and looking at the things that they wish they had done differently instead of keeping their eyes focused on the hopeful future that's in front of them when you put Christ at the center of your home. And can I just encourage you here for a few minutes this morning that if you still have breath in your lungs, there is still time. That you cannot change what has happened in the past, but you can change the trajectory of what happens in the future. It's never too late to start to pray for your kids. Never too late to put Christ at the center of your home. Never too late to let the Lord forgive your sins as you aim to forgive others and to see God do a work in your family. Well, I don't have a great relationship with my mom, Foster. What about me? You don't understand my full story. If you understood my family dynamic, perhaps you'd feel a little bit different. Well, and you're right, I may not know your story, but I understand where you may be coming from. But can I just encourage you, for those that maybe you didn't have a mom that invested in you spiritually or someone that spoke hope and life into your life, can I ask that you maybe consider being that to someone else? That if Keystone Church is your home, we saw this morning, you've got young families here that would love someone to say, "Hey, I'd be willing to take some time and help you learn from some of the mistakes that I've made or from some of the things that I've done right." I'd love to be able to invest in your family. I believe that all of us in this room, you have more to offer than you actually think, and that spiritually, your best days are in front of you. Because according to the Bible, according to my word and what I see through Scripture, our lives are not defined by the mistakes of our past, but by the hope that Christ gives us for our future. There's always hope that's found in Jesus. In fact, Paul, he figured this out. He figured out the way to live. He recognized that perfection was never going to be the goal. You're never going to have a perfect home. You're never going to be the perfect mom. You're never going to be the perfect dad. But we aim our lives towards a perfect Savior, and we build our home around Him. Philippians 3:13 and 14 says, "But one thing I do, forgetting what is behind and straining towards what is ahead. I press on toward the goal to win the prize for which God has called me heavenward in Christ Jesus. Let's talk one last time here before we pray about the story of Hannah. I mentioned her when we were dedicating children at the beginning of service. The part of the story that I didn't read that you could go back through 1 Samuel chapter 1 was that Hannah, she wasn't immediately able to conceive her son. In fact, during the time where she was praying and asking the Lord for a child, there was actually someone close to her that was ridiculing her the entire time that she was in a season that was incredibly painful. In 1 Samuel 1, 10 and 11, it says, "In her deep anguish, Hannah prayed to the Lord, weeping bitterly." Some of you have been in that place. And she made a vow saying, "Lord Almighty, if you'll only look on your servant's misery and remember me and not forget your servant, but give her a son, then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life." I think my wife mentioned it earlier that we're all going to experience pain. Every single one of us, 100 out of 100. It's just a matter of time. But the difference is, what do you do when you experience that pain? More specifically, who do you turn to? Or what do you turn your attention to? Do you turn your eyes to the Lord or to someone or someplace else? If there's a lesson that we can learn from Hannah on this Mother's Day weekend, that regardless of the pain that you've experienced in your past, perhaps there's prayers that have been unanswered that you're still believing God for. Maybe your house in your home and your marriage isn't perfect. I do know this, that it's never too late to put Christ at the center of your life. It's never too late to make that moment. And we don't know all that happened in that time where Hannah was experiencing the deep anguish and the bitterness that Scripture points out, to the time, the in-between, where her prayer was actually answered. But we do know that Hannah kept her relationship with the Lord strong, despite the pain that she was experiencing. And I've noticed that it takes wisdom to build a family and to recognize the season of life that you're in. Because I think Ruth mentioned it on this panel, that time is running out. We only have brief moments with our kids or with our spouse. And I think in our minds, because things are always moving so fast, we assume we have limitless amounts of time, but really we don't. Scripture actually records that life is but a mist. It's here today, it's gone tomorrow. And there's a poem that I found, its author is unknown, but I think it speaks specifically to this truth and shares a powerful perspective. It's called "The Last Time." It's written from the perspective of a mother. It says, "From the moment you hold your baby in your arms, you'll never be the same. You might long for the person you were before, when you had freedom and time and nothing in particular to worry about. You will know tiredness like you never knew it before, and days will run into days that are exactly the same, full of feedings and burpings, nappy changes and crying, whining and fighting, naps or a lack of naps. It might seem like a never-ending cycle. But don't forget, there is a last time for everything. There will come a time when you will feed your baby for the very last time. They'll fall asleep on you after a long day, and it'll be the last time that you ever hold your sleeping child. One day you'll carry them on your hip, then set them down, and never pick them up that way again. You'll scrub their hair in the bath one night, and from that day on, they'll want to bathe alone. They'll hold your hand across the road, then they'll never reach for it again. They'll creep into your room at midnight for cuddles, and it'll be the last night you ever wake to this. One afternoon, you'll sing the wheels on the bus and do all the actions, then never sing them that song again. They'll kiss you goodbye at the bus stop. The next day, they'll ask to walk to the bus alone. You'll read a final bedtime story and wipe your last dirty face. They will one day run to you with arms raised for the very last time. I think it's a powerful reminder that even though our time may be short, even though we may not even be able to predict when that last time will be, that there is always hope found in Jesus. In fact, that poem was titled "The Last Time." With Jesus, the title would be "A New Beginning." It would be a new hope for your family. And can I tell you something? I know that all the moms that were on this stage, they would agree with this statement, that you will never, ever regret following Jesus. You'll never regret committing your life to Christ. Because Romans 10:13 says, "For everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved." And Hannah, when she prayed, even though her circumstances didn't immediately change, she was full of joy. She was full of hope because her faith and her family were built on the Lord.
Thanks for joining us this morning. If you need prayer for any area of your life, we would love to pray for and with you. You can text Keystone Prayer to 88,000 and someone from our prayer team will get back with you. And I promise we're praying for you. I hope you have a great week. We'll see you next time.